Welcome to another edition of Trailer Talk. This is episode 2. Today is March 28th. We did not have an episode air yesterday because of technical issues. The team here is confident that we have resolved those, however. But as always, I'm your host, Lil Stank, and here with me is Leather Hat Guy. Now, to jump right in, right before we came on air, some disturbing news that Leather Hat Guy here came across. We apparently have our first feline coronavirus infection. I had been under the assumption, I had been told or read somewhere that I thought we didn't have to worry about our animals becoming infected with this.
Nope. Dogs, they knew for sure we had an issue with, and apparently also our cats. So keep an eye on your furry friends.
See, I could have swore I read that, you know, there were primate transmissions like to monkeys, but wow, yeah, that's disturbing. I did not know that. Now, on a serious note, we didn't get to do a show yesterday, so we completely missed in a one-day span. We overpassed China for the volume, sheer number of confirmed cases, and then before I could even get back on the air, we went over 100,000 cases. We need to take this serious, man. I mean, if you're sick, stay at home. If you don't need to go anywhere, don't go anywhere. You know, I mean, we don't have to be out and about every day. You know, let's stay at home, meditate, do some gardening. You know, do some cleaning. I mean, you don't have to go anywhere. You know.
Right. I've planted 30 fruit trees and cooked 3 roasts since this has begun. It's been a week. You can find stuff to do. I mean.
I also saw, was it last night or this morning, they believe they have found the patient zero for this outbreak, a 57-year-old shrimp vendor named Wei Hardward, possible patient zero from the Hunan market in Wuhan. And she believes she contracted it from a market toilet that she shared with meat vendors. So obviously she wouldn't have been the first person to have had it if that was the case, but we now believe she was perhaps the first one to test positive for it.
Say, if it's a she, that blows my theory out of the water.
She's recovered and is doing fine apparently. But yeah, they believe that may have been, and this is from the New York Post, so actually I'm not sure how they're classifying her as a patient zero, if it's theorized or plausible that she picked it up from someone else off of a toilet. That would mean she, by definition, was not patient zero of this outbreak. So, great reporting, New York Post. There's a reason papers are doing so well. Another COVID-19 related thing I saw, which is terrifying, is the government monitoring they're wanting to do now. You know, the using the cell phone information to monitor social distancing and to track the spread, they say, of this virus using cell phone data, and they've been
wasn't that part of the plot of Batman 3? Pretty sure that was part of the Batman 3 plot.
By Batman 3, are you referring to
the Nolan Batman?
Batman Forever?
No, the Nolan universe Batman. Morgan Freeman.
You know, I don't remember. Is that the one with Heath Ledger, the
no,
Dead Boys?
Heath Ledger was the second one. The third one is the one where Batman invents some creepy spy program.
That's the one with Bane, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Completely off topic. Thank you for completely derailing our conversation. But I've always had an issue with that third Batman film because we're led to believe that all of a sudden Bruce Wayne is a scientist and a mechanical and computer genius because he develops these spy programs, and then he, without anyone knowing, writes a completely new autopilot program for the bat plane at the end of the movie so that it carries the bomb over and blows up. But Bruce Wayne is safe because Morgan Freeman sees him later, doesn't even, I mean, on his face, Morgan Freeman, you can't even tell that he acknowledges it.
Not Morgan Freeman.
What do you mean not Morgan Freeman?
It's not Morgan Freeman who sees him, it's Alfred.
Who the hell is Alfred? Oh, well, that's even worse. Alfred, you're telling me Alfred wouldn't have some huge show of emotion when he finds that the guy he's been caring for all this time is actually alive? Like,
it would make more sense, yeah. Yeah, you would think that.
And again, when did Batman become this technological genius that he can write a sophisticated computer program? And what did they say on there? Oh, it looks like it was updated a month ago or a couple months ago by Bruce Wayne. Bullshit. If you look at the timeline, it would have taken him years to possibly do this shit, and that's assuming he knew what the hell he was doing.
I'll agree with you on that one. Bruce Wayne is smart. Bruce Wayne has talents. Bruce Wayne is not Iron Man. He's not Tony Stark. That's not his ballywhack. That's not what he does.
Yeah, I was very disappointed in that. They should have just let him die. I would have been much happier with that. Have him go out as a hero, you know?
Right.
That would have been great.
Would have been a nice setup. We could have, had whoever that kid cop was, we could have had the setup for him being new Batman.
Third Rock from the Sun Boy.
Yeah.
He's been in, wasn't he in Angels in the Outfield as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was, I think he was the older brother.
Yeah, like, I've been a fan, yeah, because the younger brother was a black kid.
Yeah.
It was definitely the older brother. No, I've been a fan of that kid for a while. I'm glad to, I'd like to see him get something out of this.
See,
you know?
I like the look at him too. Again, going slightly off topic, this could have been a great chance for our Batman Beyond spinoff. We could quit rehashing regular Batman, go a bit further with it. He looked like Batman Beyond, the main character. He'd been a great casting for it.
We've been off topic, so you didn't have to say that. But anyway, back to the government monitoring that may or may not have been part of the Batman 3 subplot. They're apparently the government in bed with people like Facebook and Google to harvest user data from mobile phones, and I saw an article last night of Edward Snowden kind of sounding the alarm on this, and yeah, I mean, I don't like it. You know, I'm strictly libertarian. Like, as much as I think there is a need to fight this virus, that is not something I want to see at all. I mean, we shouldn't have erosion of freedoms in order to feel safe. I'm pretty sure one of our founding fathers said something, much more eloquent about that. Let's see. Also, I knew this was going to happen. I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen more of these stories. But I see in San Francisco they're starting to see shuttered businesses, restaurants broken into and looted, or in one case just broken into, all the booze drank, and they partied in there and then left the place trashed. Yeah, I mean, that's going to get worse, I think, especially because I read another story this morning that, like, I think it was Detroit, a fifth of their police force is under quarantine right now.
I saw something about that, yeah.
So, I mean, I'm really shocked. It's a good opportunity, a good reason to go ahead and find any ammo or weapons you can, just in case. You never know what could happen. Again, still looking for these sponsorships. Our friends at KeepShooting.com, where I purchased the gas mask we demonstrated the other day, and you see right up here, they have a nice selection of potentially life-saving weapons. And if you go there, mention to them that little Stank sent you so we can try and get something worked out. But yeah, I mean, this is going to just continue, especially the longer this shutdown happens. I mean, the closer you are to an urban area, the more likely you're going to be impacted by this, I think. I mean, that's going to, they have the larger populations. They're going to run out of food first. If food shipments stop coming in, they're going to start to spread out from there. Speaking of that, I just saw a story about a lot of the nation's meat workers getting sick, which is frightening as well. I don't know if you've ever been in a chicken processing plant.
Unfortunately, yes.
Well,
There's a whole other level of smell in there.
Well, yeah, I was going through on an interview for a management position in one of these places one time, and I mean, you see how the workers go, it's shoulder to shoulder all along the line. So I mean, it's hard to imagine how if somebody's sick, how it doesn't go all the way through it, infect everyone. But yeah, it's apparently something that's going on right now. We're having places, including Tyson, said that they have had a couple of incidents of workers being sick, but they're sending them home, and they said they don't want team members who feel sick to come to work. But we've all worked at different, corporations or some semblance thereof.
I didn't hear anybody say we're paying sick people not to come to work.
Well, but a lot of times corporate can have one message to the media, but your direct superior or your district or regional manager may have a different idea, But I mean, that's not something anybody wants to hear, that our meat processing facilities are having people get sick, and they don't know, as far as I understand, still, if the food being touched by someone like that will necessarily affect you. I read an article a few days, and again, this is constantly changing, but a few days ago they said that as it's a primarily respiratory illness, they didn't have any cases that they knew of up to this point showing an intestinal...
That would make sense. I mean, you're already wearing a mask or something so you don't breathe on the chicken, I hope.
Although, you did see, I'm sure, some of the reports that, some cases included horrible GI pain and issues.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, is it possible that those could have been ones that started in your GI system rather than your respiratory system? Who knows? I mean, it's hard to say. Oh, something else. Did you see there's a cruise ship with 1,200 people, 1,200 passengers, 500 crew, and some, I don't know if it's hundreds, I think, of infected people on there that has been turned away from 2 places and is now coming to dock in Florida? Did you see about that?
Not that it was coming to Florida.
Yeah, I think it was happening today or tomorrow. But the thing I'm really curious about, they said they have these number of confirmed cases, and a lot of times you have these cruise ships that are out there.
So you haven't quarantined shit on this cruise ship.
Well, no. Not only that, you have these cruise ships are out there for, 30, 40, 50 days at a time sometimes, from what I understand. I've never been on one, but when I was looking at this, some of these cruise liners are out for... How do you have tests on board that ship? Whenever everyone around the everyone's struggling to get tests and get results, how do you have tests on this cruise ship that you're able to tell us you have confirmed cases? I mean,
Say, I could offer up. They sent them out by boat or helicopter. That's not what I think is likely or logical. That's just if I had to throw an answer in the ring. Or
And
one of these countries that turned him away tested a passenger or somebody, and that's why they turned him away? Not enough information.
I mean, I guess that's possible, but as I understand, I think they were turned away from like Argentina and Chile, maybe. And not trying to say anything disparaging towards either country, but I'm not sure that either one of those countries are like better equipped than we are as far, and we're struggling to get these tests out. So I just find it hard to believe. I don't know. I just would
That's
like
true. I mean, especially considering, don't at me about this, I didn't do great in geography. I'm pretty sure both those places are kind of close to Brazil, who we have already talked about as having their own issues with cases in their country. Side note, golf clap to the Brazilian gangsters, helping everybody.
Yeah, you have the president Bolsonaro. He says that it's no big deal, it's just a little cold. And then we apparently have the Brazilian street gangs going through and enforcing curfews and quarantines and checking on citizens, and it's kind of awesome. Last big, well, two last COVID-19 topics, and we'll move on. Number one, horrible news. I just saw that rapper Slim Thug apparently has tested positive. So, thoughts and prayers out to Slim Thug. We're all big fans of your music.
Stay strong, man.
Absolutely. Thoughts and prayers. Slim Thug. Alright, so local coronavirus. Obviously, we're a New Orleans area based program. New Orleans is being ravaged by this shit. I keep seeing these stories that New Orleans is being hit so hard because of Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras brought it down here. All these out-of-town people came in, spread it around. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, do you buy it? I mean,
I think that might have started it. I think that might have had a great deal to do with it. On my personal experience, I think a lot of it has to do with people just can't wash their goddamn hands. It's like, or stay the fuck out of the French Quarter when they've been told to, because everybody is sick. Tourists might have contributed to this, but I'm going to look harder at the local population. I'm sorry, guys. I know y'all.
Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts exactly. And again, don't want to insult or make any enemies in our own backyard, but I think the people have been much more to blame, because I do want to point out it was like February 24th or 25th, I believe, was Mardi Gras Day. So that would have been your last, big day of parades and festivities. We didn't have our first confirmed case until, I want to say it was towards the end of the first week of March, like March 6th or 7th. Now that's obviously within the 2-week period, and I'm not saying that Mardi Gras wasn't an impact or it didn't potentially come from there, but what we've seen is a continual exponential rise, and like I said, blaming it on Mardi Gras, which is over a calendar month ago from where we're at right now, I think is borderline ignorant, especially whenever you look at the posts that a lot of people were sharing on social media platforms from our home state that said things like, oh, well, we stand in parades and ankle-deep mud and horse shit, and we eat potatoes and cabbage, we get off the street, and we eat animals called mud bugs and snap their heads off and suck their insides. I think our immune system's going to be able to handle this better than blah, blah. I mean, number one, I'm not a scientist, but I don't think that's how an immune system works. Like, I think you have to be exposed to something. Your body then builds antibodies to that thing you're exposed to, and then you build immunity to. I think that's how it works. So you standing in ankle-deep shit and mud and eating crawfish, I don't think does anything to prepare your immune system for a, don't want to call it Chinese virus because I think that's politically incorrect, but a virus from within the Far East.
A foreign virus which has traveled halfway around the world, which you have no prior experience with. It's going to work about as well as smallpox did for the Indians.
And as a side note, though, who the hell eats the cabbage and potatoes they throw to you at the actual parades? Like, I see them chuck that shit, and I say, but I see people fighting over it. I'm like, that's like 80 cents. Like, 80 cents at the supermarket. I would much rather pay that than eat this shit off of the ground where we are at right now. Like, somebody pissed and puked there within the last 24 hours. I mean...
I don't want to get that deep in the social commentary on the desperation of some of these people.
No, that's the thing. If you're homeless or something, I get it. But these aren't homeless people we're talking about.
Yeah. If you drove to the parade, you don't need to eat that stuff.
Most of these people are much better off than you and I.
No, I had a lot of those little mini loaves of bread that they threw at those parades. Difference being, those were packaged in a bag. They were sealed.
I mean, all I'm saying is, bottom line, New Orleanians, Louisianians, we can't blame Mardi Gras, which again was over a month ago, on something that we're continuing to exponentially spread along. We have to blame our elected officials, number one, for being so inactive and passive, like the great, wise, honorable LaToya Cantrell. I mean, how many videos did you see of all these people partying up and down the French Quarter whenever they said no parade? That wasn't Mardi Gras, by the way. That was the Irish Italian festival. Mm-hmm. No parades, no whatever. And people said, "Oh, fuck that, we're gonna party." Why didn't you have police down there in riot gear dispersing this shit? Why? Like,
because she didn't want to. I mean, she did do all that after outside forces compelled her to go do something about it.
I mean, if it happened, it definitely wasn't public, because the main things I was seeing is all the posts and videos from several areas around New Orleans where people were partying like nothing was going on. And like, it's disappointing. I mean, it took us for some reason much longer to catch on that this is a serious deal.
We give it a little time. Florida might up their numbers, make us look better by comparison after all those fiascos with the spring break kids, who I don't want to make fun of for being young and stupid. Me being young and stupid not that long ago, but goddamn, that was stupid.
Yeah. And we had this discussion a few days ago, and you made the argument that I would have been one of those spring break kids not that long ago, and my answer was, a couple of months ago, if we were that age, perhaps I'd have been like, yeah, it ain't gonna get us. But once we're to this point, even at that age, I'd have been like, bro, this is apocalyptic. Again, I had seen Outbreak when I was younger, so I've been kind of prepared for this scenario. That's why I was one of the first people I know of that was saying, well, this shit ain't gonna be good, and this is when it was still in China. Everybody was making fun of me. Like, oh, you're worrying about something that's never gonna... Oh, well, I hate to say I was right and I told you so about something of this amount of seriousness, but, I mean, I definitely nailed this shit, That's why you at home have the advantage of just take the opportunity and listen to what I say. I'm usually right. The one time I can think of I was wrong, I thought I made a mistake. Hey guys, a little Stank here. Just wanted to let you know this is a perfect opportunity for you to advertise your product during our show. Make sure and contact our team at lilstank49@gmail.com. And welcome back to Trailer Talk. Alright, next thing I want to get into is the Netflix docu-series Tiger King, or The Tiger King. I'm not exactly sure. I showed you the first episode before we started. What's your initial overview of this series?
Tiger King is insane, but no more than most of the people we hang out with. I think he'd make a pretty good addition to the crew, honestly.
Right now, I assume you're referring to Joe Exotic,
Yes, Joe Exotic seems like a pretty fun guy to hang out with. Seems like he likes his animals, too, as far as I can tell.
I've watched the first 4 episodes up to this point. We definitely find out some other things about Joe, but yeah, definitely so far. If we're comparing him to Carol Baskins, the crazy bitch on the other end of the big cat spectrum, I'm definitely gonna throw my hat in with Joe. I'm sorry. My favorite part, I think, though, is the very beginning of the series. Within the first couple minutes, I don't know who it is talking, but he's talking about how all animal people are crazy, and he's like, but big cat people, he's like, those are the most backstabbing, worst pieces of shit on this planet. And I was just like, oh my god. But when they're going through this story, especially some of the characters were being presented, i.e. Carol Baskins, seem to really live up to that. I
agree. I'll be honest, I don't know the lady. I've only seen the first episode, but my honest knee-jerk gut reaction is I don't like her.
Look, I hate to generalize and shit like that, but did you not notice the fans of Carol Baskins are all, how do I say this nicely? Middle or approaching middle-aged women with the flappy arms and the she's amazing, and coming up to her, they're like sycophants. I mean, they're oh my god, you're the most amazing thing in the world, and oh my god, you're gonna make me cry, and all of them are doing this the whole time they're talking.
She does appear to be much beloved by crazy cat ladies. It's
something. And I've watched a little more, obviously, than you have, and no, I mean, she is the worst type of person I think I've ever seen. I am interested what the agenda is, if there is an agenda behind this docu-series, because as far as I can tell, they're pretty much laying everything out pretty straightforward. The narrators of the series haven't done anything, as far as I can tell, to slam or particularly point our view towards any of these characters. I mean, we just as a person, as a human being, like some of these seem like decent, or they could be decent. Then you have some of them that just seem like the worst type of human being that you could have.
Yeah, I'll say Joe definitely appears to be eccentric, in a nice way of putting it. Carol, is that her?
Carol Baskins.
Carol might be more accepted in polite society, But I still stand by my initial assessment of saying I think Joe is better to hang out with.
You still haven't seen the part where we're introduced to the fact that her millionaire husband just up and disappears. And this is like a week or a month after going to the law to try and get a restraining order enforced against his wife, because he said that he felt threatened because she had stolen his 357 and had a 44 or 45 of his own, and he said if something doesn't change I will end up dead. A month later he disappears, and she happens to own a lot of tigers. I would think that I mean, Crazy Joe just told us that it takes him 30 cows a day if he were to feed his tigers nothing but cows. 30 a day. I'm sure they could get rid of a human body. I'm sure of it. I mean, it's insane. One of my favorite parts, though, is this dude, Joe Exotic. He had his own line of boxers. I don't know if they were Joe or Tiger King boxers, I think is what they were. And thongs and all kinds of cat print underwear. He had body lotions, bath gels, sex gels, all Tiger King branded. I mean, it's insane. If you haven't watched that at home, you've got to see it. I mean, it's, especially when there ain't shit else to do, we all have to stay at home. Tiger King is a must watch. It's just been phenomenal. And after that, I think you'll see. I mean, there's one of these people that seems like a much worse human being than the other. Now, in all fairness, I will say that obviously Carol Baskins has come out and said that the directing team was very selective with how they chopped and edited footage and made her come out in a bad light. From what they've shown us, it's hard to see how I mean, they're showing us shit that she said, like out of her mouth. They're showing us conversations, direct statements made by her.
I'll go with the one point that I feel comfortable arguing, since again I've only seen the first episode of this, going to be watching more. But she kept harping on people keeping tigers in cages in the first episode, while she's standing next to these animals in cages.
You're talking about her animals in her cages that she's standing next to, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Her animals in her cages, and my only question, or the biggest question I have, is why are her cages better than Joe's cages? Because as far as I can tell, cage is a cage.
Yeah, I mean, like you said earlier, I think that her end game is, she says that she's 100% against the captivity of wild big cats. They all need to be free, but what she has set up is okay. And she gave some figure at the beginning of it about each tiger needs 400 square miles of territory. Again, that seems a bit facetious. I mean, or hugely over-exaggerated, if I'm being honest.
My question would be, do you mean needs or have been known to travel?
Because if it's the first one, you're telling me that each tiger needs a city approximately the size of Indianapolis to have for its own. I mean, that seems a bit outrageous. But again, I mean, I don't know anything about these things. But I don't think that she has that amount of land, from what they've shown us at least on this documentary. It doesn't look like she's got 400 square miles for each cat that she's got out there. So again, she seems to be saying one thing and doing the exact opposite. Anyway, it's a great program. Y'all need to check it out. Be sure and let us know, in the comment section what you think about it. Alright, lastly, I'm going to go through a little bit of sports news that we have in this trying time. Now, again, still looking for sponsorship, So I would like everyone to know that for our sports section, I will be dipping Copenhagen mint. This is a great minty taste, Copenhagen quality that we've always loved, and the long cut that keeps your teeth looking clean. So biggest sports news, we were talking about it earlier.
I hate to bring this up, man, but while I'm thinking about it, tobacco companies aren't allowed to do sponsorships on YouTube.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you've never seen a beer commercial on YouTube either.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Well, I mean, you know, this is the era of hope and change. Well, wait. I think we moved past
We
it.
missed that one.
Let's find a way to make ourselves victims in this, and I think that's how we get things done nowadays. Damn it. Alright, anyway, biggest, most present sports news is the fact that we may not have an NFL season, is the rumor going around. What do you think about that, Leatherhead guy?
I'm going to be severely disappointed if that is the case. Again, as we talked about earlier, separate from the whole fear of a loss of our football season, our fantasy season, and the ensuing shenanigans we enjoy so much, football season is like 5 months out. If they're talking about pushing back or canceling football season, that means this is going to continue to be a bigger problem for a longer span of time than we're being led to believe currently. Moving on from all that, maybe we get something going with the XFL. This could always be their big push that they need to become more. That's a thought. It's a personal hope for me. I don't know.
Maybe, but from what I understand, the issue, and this is, I believe, Kirk Herbstreit was the one that was telling us this. The issue that we could be facing, and I didn't think about this, they're telling us that we're potentially 12 to 18 months away from a vaccine for this coronavirus. It could potentially continue to spread, and like we talked about last episode, you know, it's potential that it's going to travel to South America for their winter time, and then travel potentially back here for our winter time. There's zero chance that we can have, you know, 70,000 people stadiums packed, you know. There's little chance that they'd even be getting the locker rooms together with, you know, because you've got an active roster of 53 plus coaches plus players that aren't dressing, you know, that are all in this locker room together. So that would kind of count out the XFL. They're same thing. They're talking about college football. It not happening. And that, I mean, that would suck. I mean, obviously because we all love football, but you know, it's another emotional scar from this. And I know that sounds funny, but it's something else that's keeping life from returning to what we view as normal. It's something else that we have to kind of have the weight on our mind about with sports, with, you know, something that takes our mind off of what's going on. And I know it's different things for different people, but a lot of us, sports is one of those big things. And for me, it's been tough lately. Like last night, I watched the 1980 AFC Championship game because, you know, there's nothing on. Like, you know, I've been finding ways to fill that somehow. I think, though, the person this would hurt the most, or one of the people this would hurt the most. No, let me rephrase that. This is going to hurt one group of people in the NFL more than anyone else, and that's going to be the aging, older level of quarterbacks, your Big Bens, Phillip Rivers, Breeze, Brady. I think Brady is the one that could potentially suffer the most from this because he's the oldest. You put another year on there. Everybody's been predicting a cliff-like drop-off for Brady for years. It hasn't happened as of yet, but you take him away from the sport for 18, 20 plus months, and what happens?
Yeah, as you say, the teams aren't together. It's not like they're using this time to practice, so
I guess you could also make the argument that maybe the year off benefits some of these older players. Brady, Breeze, Ben, these guys that get to take another year off from accumulating hits, and maybe it helps them.
That's the 50-50. Either the extra rest is going to help them, or they're going to get soft. They're going to get slack. They're not going to be under that conditioning. So it could go either way.
And I guess the other group of players I would feel bad for are going to be the players that are playing on like a league minimum. Especially your rookie or first or second year players that are struggling to make a team, not making a whole hell of a lot as is, because you have to assume they're not going to be paying these guys while we're not having games. That would be my assumption. Because they want to, I think if you start paying these guys, then there's going to be an issue of contract lengths, because players are going to want another year towards free agency, because another year has passed. But my guess would be if there's no games, there's zero chance in hell that the owners are going to allow there to be a year accumulated towards free agency. So I just can't imagine them getting paid. So like I said, a lot of your upper tier players, they're going to be fine. Brady, Breeze, anybody that's virtually a starter that's not on their rookie contract is going to be fine. But a lot of these young players, especially like your kids that are just getting drafted, which by the way, the draft is still scheduled to go on as normal. The NFL has put no official word about possibly postponing the season. These are all just rumors. I know the NFL GM committee met the other day, and they wanted to postpone the draft because teams aren't able to do physicals on any of these kids. They're not able, they can't get the normal intel that they're used to getting, and they wanted to push it back. But Roger Goodell, in his infinite wisdom, because we all know he is great, he decided that there was no reason to push back the draft. Now, it's not going to be in Vegas, as was originally the plan. It's not going to be a big week-long super event. That's normally the biggest off-the-field event for the NFL, and they're probably going to suffer financially pretty significantly just from the draft not happening. And so is Vegas. I mean, that was going to be a boon for that city, the same way it was for Nashville last year. I mean, it turned into, from the pictures I saw, an absolute crazy town for that week. I mean, it was people shoulder to shoulder the entire 2-3 blocks of what they were shooting, which is obviously why we can't do that. But no, as of now, the official NFL word is that there's no intent, no idea on holding up the season, but I mean, we're going to know pretty soon, because players normally are going to start reporting to camps, the end of May, the beginning of June, especially your rookies. They probably aren't going to be able to do that at the end of May, beginning of June, I wouldn't guess. So we have to see.
Say, especially, even if there are some places that theoretically could. Let's look at the New York Giants, the New York Jets, the New Orleans Saints, every team in California currently under restrictions and everything else. It's not going to be feasible.
See, now, On the contrary, I think the one thing we could potentially look forward to, I think the NBA season has a much higher chance of resuming, even if in some truncated fashion. To me, the NBA would be easier. Would be easier to make it virtually foolproof if you had the players, the coaches, the referees, anybody that's going to be involved in these games and in close contact. You had them all. Now, this would require obviously some sacrifice from these people, but you have them all leave their families, leave their homes, and self-isolate for the 2 weeks. And then they all get together at the respective team facilities. You do another 2-week isolation, make sure there's nothing going on. And then when you have this control population of NBA, teams, you can start playing your games. And like I said, maybe you don't play the full rest of the season out. But I mean, it would be a lot more feasible because you have far less players on an NBA team than you do on an NFL team. You're talking about 11, 12, 13 dudes. I mean, if you count everybody that's not, there may be some restrictions that have to be made, but generally speaking, I mean, you're looking at a dozen dudes on each team. It would be a lot easier to control at that point, and I'm really hopeful that'll happen, even if it's in empty stadiums.
It's going to have to be empty stadiums, but screw it. Just they put a camera on them. I know they've got the drone cameras. There's not even a camera crew you have to worry about risking at that point. We can watch the game. I don't care that much. I'm not a huge basketball person, so if they do or don't, I'll get by, but like you said, it would be something.
I would love for them to, just because, as opposed to the NFL, MLB that haven't kicked off their seasons yet, the NBA was, winding down their regular season. We should be, getting ready for, playoffs here within the next few weeks, and I mean, it's not happening, obviously. So, I don't know. I mean, we're missing the opportunity. And the one complaint I would have, though, if they come back in some type of truncated ending to the regular season, you're going to have one or two teams, namely the New Orleans Pelicans, New Orleans, for any of our viewers, it might not be. But you're going to have teams like the Pelicans that are right on the outside of the playoffs that potentially, had we finished out the regular season, could have fought their way into the playoffs. And, now we're kind of missing that opportunity. Would have been great to see Zion in the playoffs. Now, really, it sucks for Zion and Zion fans. I mean, he missed the first half of the season, comes back, and I mean, total, I guess he's played in 20-something games maybe, and I would have loved to have seen more of him. But, that's the world we're living in right now. Sucks. But now that we've delivered all the doom and gloom we could fit into one episode, like I said, we didn't have an episode yesterday. I did put out a PSA video to hopefully help all of us during this troubling time of the virus. Any of you receiving packages or even regular mail, I put a video on there to show you how we can safely protect ourselves and our family members while retrieving these packages and what's inside of them. So give that a view if you haven't already. Again, we're going to have info in our description. If you're a sponsor and would like to get involved, just contact our team. The phone's been ringing off the hooks, even though I'm giving you an email address. It's a term. But yeah, I've been blowing up with sponsorship deals. We're still looking for the right one. So if you're interested, contact the team. And from all of us here, have a great day. Stay safe.